If you can't eat garlic or onions without bloating, pain, or embarrassing gas, you're not alone and you're definitely not doomed to flavorless food forever. This is a common complaint I actually hear from my gut health clients, and today I'm going to show you exactly what to do about it. But before we dive in, if you're not sure what's driving your gut symptoms, I want you to go down to the description and click the link and take my free gut clarity quiz. It's going to help give you the next best steps in under 3 minutes so you know exactly what to do, especially if triggers are a challenge for you. I'm Erin Harner, integrative registered dietitian nutritionist and gut health coach, and I help women with IBS, SIBO, and chronic digestive issues get real answers and long-term relief using a root cause approach. And part of that is learning to cook without the stuff that triggers you. Garlic and onions are in every salad dressings to salsas to tomato sauce to spice blends to store-bought broth. And when you react to them, you start to feel like you can't eat anything. At home, away, at a restaurant, it gets really frustrating. And this video was born out of a conversation I had with a couple clients who were really frustrated about not being able to eat out or not being able to eat foods that contain garlic or onions. So here's what's going on. Garlic and onions both contain a type of FODMAP. FODMAP is a fancy acronym for fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. So the thing that's in garlic and onions is actually called fructans, which is an oligosaccharide. It's the O in the FODMAP acronym. We can't actually digest or absorb these oligosaccharides, so they bypass the small intestine during digestion and head straight to the colon where they rapidly ferment by gut bacteria. We don't have the enzymes to break them down. So they rapidly ferment by gut bacteria, which often leads to a lot of gas, some bloating, and some pain. And if you have IBS or SIBO or something called visceral hypersensitivity, which is very common with irritable bowel syndrome or IBS, that gas can be extremely painful because the nerve endings in the gut are more sensitive than they are for other people. And just to make it worse, when clients ask, can't we just use garlic powder or onion powder because they're such tiny quantities, right? And they're really flavorful. It's actually not the case because these are dried and concentrated forms of garlic and onions. So when we concentrate those fermentable carbohydrates actually increase because we've removed all the liquid. The good news is there's actually tons of ways to cook flavorful, gut-friendly food without garlic and onions, especially when you're making things at home. So let's start with the things that we can do at home. Here are my top substitutions if garlic is a challenge for you. So the first one is going to be garlic infused oil. You can buy garlic infused oil, extra virgin olive oil from places like FODMAP Foods is certainly a great option, and a number of other brands sell them as well. Garlic infused oil is oil that's been infused with garlic and then the garlic has been removed. And the reason this works is because garlic is actually not fat soluble, it's water soluble. So when you infuse it in oil, those carbohydrates that are problematic are not actually retained in the oil. And we can do this at home if you'd like. So we can take some good quality extra virgin olive oil, we can put it in a pan, we can add our garlic to the oil, saute it for a couple minutes at a relatively low temperature so it doesn't smoke, and then actually remove the chunks of garlic. And that's a kind of a magic trick to start a sauce or a saute or a stir fry or whatever you want to make to get the flavor of the garlic without the effects of the garlic. Remember, carbohydrates are water soluble, not fat soluble. So as long as you're just using a little bit of oil and remove the garlic chunks, should be good to go. I would just be a little bit cautious about making your own garlic infused oil that you want to store at home because there is a small risk of botulism. And botulism is not good news. So I prefer to use the commercial varieties of garlic infused oil where they've done it properly and they've stored it properly and we don't have to worry about it. All right, the next thing that you can use that's really, really effective is the green parts of garlic. And if you're not familiar with this, when hardneck garlic grows, it shoots up a scape, which is like a long green thing that loops around, and you know it's done to cut it off when it loops around. So that garlic scape can actually be cut off the plant in early summer. Where I live, it's usually in June sometime, whenever they loop all the way around, they're ready. So we cut them off, and then I often make them into things like pesto. So the garlic scape doesn't have the FODMAPs like the white part of the garlic does. So that's a great trick. And there are some companies like Gourmet Foods that make powders using garlic scapes. So you can actually get the flavor of the garlic. It's a little bit more mild than garlic, but you can get the flavor of the garlic without the negative effects of the garlic if garlic is a problem for you. The next thing we can think about is asafoetida powder. So asafoetida is an Indian spice, and a lot of people are like, it's quite pungent, it's quite bitter. You only need a little tiny bit, but it's a really amazing Indian spice that's used in lots of different traditional Indian dishes to infuse a garlic and onion flavor without the garlic and onions. So that's something that you can actually use. But remember, it's super pungent, so go easy. And if you're looking for like that savory kick that you might get from garlic and onions, it's a great option. It's available at Indian stores, Indian sections of a grocery store, you might be able to find it. Just make sure that there's no anti-caking agents or anything funny in there, and it's just the asafoetida powder. Next up, let's think about some low FODMAP garlic replacers. So brands like FODMAP Foods, Smoke Insanity, or Gourmand, like I already shared, make a whole bunch of different flavor powders or salts that give you a very familiar flavor to garlic without the digestive fallout. So think about garlic infused salts, think about things like the Gourmand garlic skate powder, right? There's a lot of different options that we can use if we're purchasing a commercial product. Now for onions, let's think about onions for a minute. So onions are larger, so we have to be a little careful with quantity here. Sometimes people can tolerate a little tiny bit, but not a large quantity of onions. So if we're thinking about onion replacements, some of my favorite things to think about are the green parts or the tops of scallions or green onions or leeks. And the white parts are the part that's very, very high in FODMAPs or those oligosaccharides that are troublesome to some people's guts, not everybody. Keep in mind, these are incredible foods. I love garlic and onions. They are so good for you, but they are not good for everyone at every point in time, and that's why I'm making this video. So the green parts of leeks, green onions, and also chives can work. So garlic chives or regular chives are really nice as a replacement for onions if onions are not something that works for your gut right now. Just remember the green parts, not the white parts. One nice thing about chives is they can actually be fresh. You can use them fresh. I have multiple bunches of chives growing in my garden. I can snip them just about any time of year except the winter time. I can also cut them and just dry them and have some dried chives, which works really, really well if you're trying to flavor something like a sauce or something that you're going to cook. Chives are nice because they have a really nice subtle flavor and they work well in lots and lots of different dishes to give you that nice savory flavor of onions without the after effects of the onions. Another thing you can do, very similarly to how we described the garlic infused oil, you can actually do the exact same thing with onions. So if you want the flavor of onions, let's say you're making a stir fry, but you don't want the onion in the stir fry, you can do the same thing. You can add a tablespoon or two of oil to your pan, medium to low heat. We don't want to do super high heat, especially if we're using extra virgin olive oil. So we go below the smoke point, cut your onions into chunks just like you normally would, and saute them for a few minutes in the oil. Then you're going to remove the onion chunks and you're going to have this nice onion infused oil that you can add the other vegetables to. So that's a great hack if you're wanting some onion infused oil. There's also companies that I mentioned before like FODMAP Foods and Gourmand and Smoke Insanity that make onion infused products or onion like flavored powders. So one would be Gourmand Foods green onion powder. This one is delicious. It has a really nice onion flavor without the FODMAPs. So that's something to look for. These can be a little bit harder to find than the garlic replacements, but they can be a really big game changer if you miss the flavors of onion or onion powder, especially if you're making like a dressing or a sauce or want that flavor in a dish. So let's talk about a few other ideas if we're making things at home. So remember I was talking about those garlic scapes that shoot up? Garlic scapes are amazing, but they're only available like one time of year. There's a big harvest and then they're gone. So you can't get them throughout the whole year because they only come out once. So I like to grow my own garlic, collect the garlic scapes, and I make it into pesto. And I keep a lot of these jars in the freezer, which can be used for pastas. They can be used for pizza throughout the year. So that's a really nice way to have a low FODMAP product that's not going to cause anybody's guts any challenges. And it's really, really delicious because I made it myself. It's very hard to find pesto on a grocery store shelf that doesn't have a ton of garlic in it. So that's a hack that you can use if you're okay with harvesting some garlic scapes yourself or going to a farmer's market that might be selling them at that certain time of year. Also, if you like to garden and cook, so Pasta sauce is notoriously loaded with garlic and onions, which can be kind of tricky, especially if you're eating out at a restaurant or you're just trying to find an option at the grocery store. Fodi Foods has a nice option for garlic and onion-free sauces, so low FODMAP sauces that are quite delicious. You can also make them at home if you're feeling adventurous and want to make some sauce yourself. So I grow a ton of tomatoes, usually Roma tomatoes and some heirlooms in my garden. We always have an overabundance, more than we could ever eat fresh. So multiple times throughout the summer, I'll make big batches of sauce with all of our tomatoes. Sometimes we'll do some garlic infused oil. My kids love garlic and onions, so oftentimes we'll put the garlic and onions in it. But if you are making it yourself, you have so much more control over what goes into those sauces, right? So we bottle up and can up some pizza sauce. We do pasta sauce. We do all sorts of sauces that we can use throughout the year, given our huge harvest of tomatoes in the summertime. You can also find large quantities of tomatoes at a local farmer's market or from a community-supported agriculture share, or even your local co-op or grocery store might have some large quantities of tomatoes that you could use to make your own sauce if you're feeling adventurous and don't mind doing the process of canning. You can also stick these in the freezer, and they work really well that way as well. Other things that you can do to get the flavor without the garlic and onions are using things like oregano or Italian seasoning. What makes pizza sauce pizza sauce? Is it really the garlic, or is it the tomatoes and the salt and the oregano? We have to think about what's giving the food the flavor. And if garlic and onions are a no-no for you right now, we have to come up with some other options, right? We can use the infused powders, we can use the infused oils, we can use other things as well, like celery or carrots or sage or parsley or thyme or oregano or rosemary, right? There's lots of different herbs that we can layer to get similar flavors without the garlic and the onions. I really like to add celery as it has a really nice salty flavor, which can have a kind of similar flavor to onions in certain dishes. It works really well. Things like ginger or turmeric can also be great. It provides a lot of depth of flavor. They're delicious without the garlic and the onion. So you have to think about what are they adding here? It's not necessarily a one-to-one swap, but what can we use instead? Open up your spice drawer, open up your spice cupboard, and see what's in there that can add flavors to the dish that you're making to make it delicious without the negative side effects of these guys. So I want to just briefly talk about a bonus tip. So if you're eating at somebody's house and garlic and onion are a no-no to you and you don't want to be a huge problem, and let's say they made pasta sauce and you're like, well, all there is to eat is pasta sauce. Certain types of digestive enzymes can actually be quite helpful for things like garlic and onions because they help break down those oligosaccharides. So you're going to want to look for FODMAP type enzymes. They're not a surefire bet. They don't work for everybody, but for some people with sensitivities, they can help you get through eating out at a restaurant or eating out at a friend's house or a family dinner without the digestive distress that might come from having garlic and onions in the food that you're eating. And before we wrap up, I just want to say one thing, right? So the goal here isn't to avoid garlic and onions forever. These are super, super healthy foods. The goal is to heal your gut so that your body can actually tolerate these foods and eat them again in the future in some quantity, whether it's a tiny quantity or a bigger quantity. That's the goal. The goal is not to just avoid them forever. These strategies that I've shared are really to allow you to enjoy a lot of foods, increase your dietary diversity and variety, while still tolerating the foods and limiting the symptoms. You can always book a call with me to discuss the next best steps to support your gut if you're ready to make some changes to better tolerate these foods. So if you've been missing garlic and onions and wondering how do you bring the flavor back into your meals, there are options. Lots of them, and I've shared a ton of them here today. And again, if you haven't already gone down and clicked in the description and taken the gut clarity quiz, that's going to help you understand what's going on in your gut and what the best next steps for you might be. All right, friends, that's it for now. We'll see you in the next one.